All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Doing a quick little tier list here. So basically what I'm going to be doing with this tier list is ranking them in like 5 different categories. We've got very difficult, skill matchup, aka like a flippy 50-50, smooth win, and then green is like just attack them. Your profiles kill them really, really well. I'm going to be doing these from like a Warpbane and a Banisher standpoint, and kind of going from there. Don't think I'm doing this as like winning by 1 point. So this is not be like blowing them out like huge differential. This is just like, can we win the game by 1 point, and how easy I think that is, or how strong of a matchup it is for us as a faction. So I am going to start off with basically Space Marines. So this one, I think the current like meta lineup for this is essentially 18 Vitrix Guard, and I'm going to put this as very, very difficult. I do not believe that this is a good matchup for us. Our profiles are not that good into Vitrix Guard. They're 4 wounds. We are 3 damage. We are damage 2. We are AP 2. They get AOC. They have cover. All this stuff just leads to our damage not being very effective into Vitrix Guard. And then alternatively, right, the other variation of Space Marines that runs around is like a hull spam, which is a lot of T10, 11, and 12 things. And that is more stuff that we do not kill very well. However, I do think that, with the good mission, good layout, this is winnable. It's just going to be very, very difficult. You're going to have to play very well, and you're likely going to have a few dice rolls go your way. So next is Wrath of the Rock, Dark Angels. This also could be like Gladius Dark Angels as well. I think this is a skill matchup. We kill their stuff decent. Like Death Knights do get eaten up by Crow in a lot of different environments. Even if the AOC they're saving on 3s, but you hand them like 20 something saves with Purifying Flame in Warpbane, right? They lose 1 or 2. They lose maybe 2 or 3 guys from that, and then all the other assorted shooting you can line up into them. You're really good at killing them, and then the Lion is just annoying running around, but he's easy to kite to some degree. But I think this is a skill matchup. I don't believe it's easy or super difficult. It's just one of those matchups where you got to play the game right, play well, and then, have a really good understanding of if you're first or second, right? And the layout. Tau, difficult. So Riptides kill our stuff really well. Tau has a lot of trash that they can screen and play the game early with. So what they're allowed to do is they get to screen the table with a lot of their trash, and then we have to come out to kill the trash so we can deep strike and do other cool stuff. And if we don't do that with interceptors, we are just standing there in the middle of open, getting blasted by riptides and broadsides and the battle suits. All their profiles shoot into us really well, and frankly, our profiles don't shoot into them that well. So I have this as kind of a difficult matchup. Definitely not as bad as Vitrix Guard just from straight math, but it's certainly not a super easy matchup, but it's very winnable, and we can definitely make it work. This one, Black Templar, I have not played against it with the 60 Crusaders. However, I would put it right here as a skill matchup because you have to navigate Blood Surges, you have to navigate AOC. But, if you line up Crow and like 2 Purifiers at, a 20 man, you're probably going to be able to take it down. Additionally, Storm Ravens move block this really well, and Dreadnoughts can shoot them from far away. It's backed up by a couple decent guns, but I think for the most part, it ends up being like a nice skill matchup for the Granite player. Not super easy, but if you play the board right, move block, and do some other cool stuff, you're going to be able to make this matchup super winnable for you. Next is Drukhari. The only reason I don't have this as just attack them and win the game is because they do have a lot of volume and a lot of high AP stuff that they can hit you with, which can kill your guys. However, any matchup where Stormbolters are very effective is going to be really helpful for us because we have like 1,000 Stormbolter shots, and when our Stormbolters basically full kill a unit every time we shoot with them, that really helps us figure the game out. Now, I will say against a good Drukhari player, you're not going to be in Hallowed Ground most of the game. However, even without Hallowed Ground, you're rerolling 1s to hit, and your Stormbolters end up cleaning them up. Your Dread Knights like automatically kill Venoms and shooting almost every time. You have so many ways to kill the transports and then kill the stuff inside. You're just on this really cool clock of killing them with Stormbolters and just progressing the game and going on from there. Tyranids. So if it's triple Norn or whatever, I actually put this as probably difficult. However, just like standard Tyranids, like normal monster mash, whatnot, I think is another skill matchup. I think it's probably a little bit harder than all of them, like here, frankly, just because they do have a lot of trash to screen with. However, it's like a little one of those older books. They don't have a ton of resources to kill us super well. Exocrines, if we're in cover, we still save on 4s with our guys. Dread Knights in melee like evaporate any monster if you can get him into melee, and the Meltas go straight through on a lot of their monsters with the Dread Knights, and like the last cannons do a lot of work. You just have some things to make things happen. However, it can end up going really shaky if you flub on some of your shooting, and they end up getting really good board position and kind of going from there. Space Wolves. This is specifically like anywhere from like 6 to 12 to 18 Thunderwolf Cavalry and Stormlance. They have Ride Hard, Ride Fast, and then they have -1 to wound Terminators with access to AOC, so Crow doesn't kill them that well. This ends up being a really difficult matchup. It's one of those ones where if you go first, you've got to make some really, really, really good plays to kind of catch up the score differential, because if they go first and they just run, their cavalry at you, and then they go Ride Hard, Ride Fast, if they're not on an objective, you actually don't have a ton of ways to kill them with the Purifiers in melee. And that's only like 210 points of their army, which can eat most of our shooting, especially when they hit Ride Hard, Ride Fast. This is kind of a difficult matchup, but it's definitely super winnable, and we can kind of go from there. Next, we have Sisters of Battle. This is another one of those skill matchups. I think it is going to be probably on the, not easy, I don't like the word easier here, but basically it's one of those matches where our Stormbolters can be very effective, and they're going to be spamming a ton of MSU Meltas, and Stormbolters are decent into Sacrosands because I believe they have a 3-up save. You just hand them a bunch of saves and just hope that they fold. Crow can like split fire and kill a bunch of these units at a time, and then your Dread Knights, as long as they're safe from Melta range, can really, really shoot and do a lot of damage. The more of an Invol unit is very strong, obviously, but we can position ourselves on the board in a way to where that is not going to cook us. So Guard next. This is like goes a lot of different ways. I think that I put Guard as probably one of the hardest matchups in the game for us to actually win against a really, really good player. If they go like 2 Dorns, 3 battle tanks or whatever, and then a bunch of stuff to screen with, ends up being like a really, really, really hard army to play primary against, because they just get to put a ton of guys on the objective. Oof. They just get to like put a ton of guys on the objectives and then have them block and screen out the Dorns, and then the Dorns get to shoot us from 10,000 miles away and kill us. I haven't played this matchup in a while. Maybe it's a little bit better with the new book. However, I think this matchup is very, very difficult. It's likely not as hard as the Vitreous Guard matchup, but it's a matchup that if I was in a team environment, I would be hard steering away from to win. I could probably pull out like a 10, or something like that in a team environment, but in general, I'm going to be very scared of it. Ooh, sorry, I keep like yawning. Okay, Orks. So this one can go a lot of different ways. We're going to assume we're playing against a very good Orc player, and I think that is going to be a very, very good matchup. It's going to be closer to a difficult, very high skill matchup. You've got to move block, play around the wall, and do a lot of other really cool things. I think Bully Boys is a very scary matchup because we don't necessarily kill Mega Knobs super efficiently, especially when they're on their wall, because they're still saving on 4s against Crow's Purifying Flame. And they get to just hang out there, and then they have Fight on Death. So even if you do charge them with your high AP, they get to Fight on Death. So I think this ultimately, it probably skews between difficult and a skill matchup. I think it's far more likely to actually put it as a skill matchup here, because I think that if I was to play the game perfectly and the Orc player plays perfectly, in a lot of detachments for Granites, I have more tools to like win the game. However, I will be playing this on the channel probably in the next week or so to see kind of how it actually is. But my initial thought is that it'll be a skill matchup and it'll be a good game. And noticing a trend here with Grey Knights, right? We don't have a ton of easy wins, right? This is a skill matchup against Necrons. You have to make sure that you shoot yourself correctly and pick the right targets. Now, assuming they're playing like the Awakened Dynasty, like brick spam, they're going to probably have anywhere from two to 3 Wraith bricks. Most lists I've seen have 2. Something to note. Fuck. Something to note about the Necron matchup is the Wraith bricks have a character attached to them that is infantry. So if you guys didn't know, that means that the whole unit now has the infantry keyword, which means that when we shoot Crow into it, we are going to be shooting it and wounding on 2s which is very cool for us. So like shooting and charging with the Crow Brick will like pretty much always full kill the Wraith unit, even if they do revives. So just keep that in mind. That is like usually their main objective holder. Additionally, Crow shooting and charging will basically kill the whole Necron brick that stands at like the 20 man that revives like 6 times. So you have a lot of ways to kill this stuff really efficiently. Just play the game the right way. Don't get caught out. Don't lose anything stupid. And you should have a pretty smooth time in this one. Custodes I have as a easier side of smooth win. Basically, they don't move very fast. They move 6 with the advance and charge once, right? Their stuff is 3 wounds through the Wardens and like Terminators, right? And our Dread Knights are 3 damage. We do have decent multi-phase damage, so we can bait out the 4-up Feel No Pain and Shooting, and then charge it, and most likely kill most of the unit, especially if they're on an objective, which they kind of have to be because they're playing Custodes. They don't have a ton of units. I found this matchup to be pretty comfortable, unless they're like spamming stuff in like Solar Spearhead, like spanning a bunch of Dreadnoughts. This matchup is very achievable to win, and I think that it's one of those matchups that I would be very happy to play. CSM, kind of the same deal. You're going to notice a trend here with like power armor and like, you know, fast, low toughness things or whatever is really comfortable for Grey Knights to play against. Now, like, it's not an auto win by any means, but I believe that this faction is very fast with Renegade Raiders. It's really good with, and then Bile, it's also very fast. They can hit us really hard, but we kill their profiles really, really efficiently. And if you're playing the game right, move blocking and shooting from max range and doing all the things that I talk about in like every video, I think this will be a very smooth matchup for you. Definitely one that I would circle unless they have like it's like gunline CSM or whatever. All right, Emperor's Children. This one is probably toward the easier side of a skill matchup, just in my opinion. I think that we kill all their profiles incredibly well. If you're playing Banishers, you get anti-chaos against the Demon Princes, right? If you are playing Warpbane, you just get full rolls to hit against everything. Purifiers nuke everything that's in their list. It'll full kill pretty much everything when you shoot with them, unless something goes horribly wrong. If you're in Warpbane and if you're in Banishers, you've got access to miss, so you can basically force them to do 9-inch charges all the time or give you miss. Your Interceptors kill all their data sheets basically except the Demon Prince really efficiently. Your Stormbolters are decently efficient into them, so I find this matchup to be pretty comfortable. Obviously, like if the player is really, really good, you know, this turns into like a skill game, and I'm just giving respect to the good Emperor's Children players out there. As someone who's played it a decent amount, I would not want to go into Grey Knights as Emperor's Children player because I don't have a ton of stuff to screen with, etc., etc. But yeah, that's good. I would definitely say it's on the lower end of a skill matchup. This is Imperial Agents. Just attack them and kill them. They don't kill 2-up armor saves that well. If they have a bunch of Deathwatch, just make sure you don't get charged by them on anything super critical. Your like skirmish and early game stuff will kill their stuff pretty efficiently. Just take the objectives, force them to come out with a Deathwatch, and kill them. I think that matchup is very simple. Moving on to Death Guard. I just made a list with them because I hadn't realized how bad their point nerfs were. So I actually think this matchup is very, very easy now. All their profiles die really efficiently to us. Crow just vacuums up this matchup incredibly well. The heavy bloat drones are a little bit scary, but they die to our shooting pretty efficiently back. And if we're not in contagion range and they don't pick the armor save one, we have a pretty good save against its shooting as well. So I just find that like this matchup ends up being pretty cool. And Storm Ravens just blow this matchup up like crazy. Banishers let you create a 6-inch bubble of no deep strike with your characters. You have mists. Like you have so many different tools that are strong into this outside of Warpbane. I think this matchup just ends up feeling incredibly well. It's probably honestly like this and Custodes are probably like really similar. So next is Thousand Suns. I'm going to put it here for exactly one reason. If they're playing Coven, Grand Coven, and they have the strat that gives them a Feel No Pain against psychic attacks and gives you hazardous, that makes this matchup incredibly annoying. However, if you're playing Banishers and they Doombolt you or whatever, you can bounce the Mortal Wounds back at them, which is very cool. There's a lot of interesting things in this matchup. I don't hate it. I don't love it. But I think that if you play this matchup right, you definitely have opportunity to win big, especially if you've got like Storm Ravens and things in your list that do a lot of damage that are not psychic based. It can go a long way. And additionally, if they're not playing Rubicate Phalanx, your Stormbolters can actually take out can take out Rubric Marines pretty efficiently. If they're playing Rubric Phalanx, it's a little bit harder because they're going to get extra save against all your damage 1 stuff, which is what most of your anti-infantry killing things is. I would say against Coven, it's a skill matchup, and if you guys are listening, against Rubric Phalanx, it's going to be a difficult matchup. So I'm going to leave it here because most people are playing Grand Coven. Blade Angels, I'm going to put probably on the easier end of skill matchup, just because it's one of those matchups where we, again, our weapons and our profiles shoot them very efficiently. Sanguinary Guard are 3 wounds, which means our Dread Knight are 3 damage and kill them. You know, our Purifying Flame gets through their stuff pretty efficiently with Crow. Our Storm Raven does a lot of damage to them in shooting. You know, that's just kind of what we're looking for in like a good matchup. It's just, this is like a Power Armor Space Marine army. Now they have high AP on their Sanguinary Guard, so they can get into melee with you, and it's very scary. However, I think that this ends up being a solid matchup for you. If you're better than your opponent, you play better than them, I think that you're going to win this matchup more often than not. Chaos Knights, difficult. 2 very difficult. I would honestly probably put it in very difficult. If they are playing triple Gatling Despoiler with you know, all the War Dogs and stuff supporting them, it's really, really hard to get in. And whenever they want, a Despoiler can just full kill like your whole unit if they want to ignore cover and sustained, which is very scary and frustrating to play against. Any of those T11 guys with 1 trillion wounds, if you can't get your Dread Knights into melee with them, you end up having a really hard time killing it. And if you, for some reason, you go with your Dread Knight and you don't roll that well with it, it ends up being really sad because they just can look at their feet and shoot you. So very difficult matchup there. I've actually downgraded Knights from very difficult to just the normal difficult, just with the loss of their feel no pain access and the, like, a little bit less efficient in shooting that they are compared to the Index Knights. This matchup feels very similar to Chaos Knights. However, it's just they're a little bit less strong and efficient at killing 2-up armor saves. GSC. So if you're against a really good GSC player, it's probably toward the end of toward the end here on skill matchup. However, if you're playing against someone like who's not as experienced with GSC, I actually probably put them down here in Smooth Win, right behind Drukhari, just because our Stormbolters evaporate them with the nerfs to Hosts of Ascension. You know, the nerfs to Hosts of Ascension, you're able to beat that attachment a lot better. Outlander Claw, your Dread Knights kill them really well. Biosanctic is decent in melee. Obviously, they can definitely kill us pretty efficiently, but I think that this matchup ends up being a skill matchup. And if you're Tucker and you're watching, I would definitely put you up here in skill matchup or difficult. But by and large, I think this is a pretty comfortable matchup for Grey Knights. The Grey Knight Mirror is cursed. Don't play it. I'm not going to even talk about it. Matchup. Obviously, if it is, you do play this, it is like somewhere in the skill matchup area, but there's so many variables there. I'm not going to really dig into that. And frankly, that doesn't happen very much. So Admech, I'm going to have a little bit easier than Knights, but still difficult, only because Crow does carry that matchup really efficiently. And if you're playing Warpbane, their stealth isn't as impactful because you still do get your full rerolls to hit. You kill the bats kind of efficiently. You kill all the stuff very efficiently, but they just have so much stuff. And the Twin Link Glass Cannon Chickens, second they see a Dread Knight or a Transport, they just get to decide to kill it, which is really scary for us. So you have to kind of play the game really safe with your Dread Knights and hope that your infantry can take you home, or just be okay with only activating your Dread Knights once. World Eaters. This is one of my favorite matchups to play, actually. I think that it is another one of those high skill matchups where they have decent amount of shooting. Their profiles kill us really well, and then our profiles kill them really well. I think this comes down to how you stage and position your army and your units. Same thing with them. If they make a mistake, you get to take advantage and kill them. I think that, frankly, the World Eater player has less room to make a mistake in this matchup, just because if they make a mistake, we get to just drop somewhere, kill them, and then reposition anywhere else on the table. So I think the World Eater matchup is definitely a skill matchup, probably a little easier than Bully Boys, actually, because they have less models, and we'll go from there. Drukhari. This is specifically like Warhost, Aspect Host with the Fire Dragon package. This can definitely nuke us with the Fire Dragons flying around. They get to like one tap a Dread Knight whenever they want, basically. The only saving grace here is they don't have a ton of OC. Swooping Hawks and Warp spiders and things don't kill strike marines super efficiently. So if you can catch a window to take out the wave serpents early, that's really slows them down, and you can make this matchup into a good one. However, as it stands against a good player, I think the matchup is difficult but winnable if you play it correctly. Deathwatch is actually difficult, believe it or not. They have a bunch of teleporting guns that instantly kill everything that you have in your list. Basically, your only real saving grace is they don't have a ton of stuff to screen with. So if you get out there early and take care of their stuff to screen, you're able to stick a lot of rapid ingresses and take out their big stuff. But if you're on a map with really good firing lanes, they can just line up and kill you down whatever firing lane they choose. So it's probably somewhere floating between difficult and a skill matchup. Just because they have so much more damage to kill you, I think I'm actually going to put them here. And because we kill them back as well really well, because they're marine bodies, so we do kill those very efficiently. Votann, difficult. Hecatons are really frustrating to kill. They have a ton of AP1, AP2, ignoring cover, heavy bolters with sustained, which is frustrating. So they can definitely nuke our data sheets pretty efficiently. They're T12 on the Hecaton Land Fortress with a 2-up save with access to AOC. So we just end up being in a really frustrating scenario there where our Purifiers, which is our best non-Dread Knight thing in melee, even if they're sitting on an objective, we're still winning them on 6s, which sucks. Our guns do kill their trash really, really well. However, they've got a bunch of vehicles and holes running around to the point where we have to make sure that when we do commit a Dread Knight, we're doing everything we can to have it not get shot back by Hecaton Land Fortress, because realistically, our only out to that thing in this matchup is getting a Dread Knight into melee, which is only going to be done through a really good rapid ingress, which is going to be achieved by killing their trash and moving on. And then last is Demons. Depending on the list, if it's 5 great unclean ones, it's kind of a hard matchup for us. Because if you're playing Banishers, obviously it's not as bad because you can just get to plug your 4-up, and then Crow Stormbolters gets to kill a Guo, which is hilarious. But when they have a bunch of big ones, big guys, you have to really get in there and make sure that you get your rapids off, you get your Dread Knights in there, you shoot them and focus them down one at a time. It's a very, very tight, pacey game where you have to make really good decisions and focus down one target at a time and just be comfortable giving up primary, because frankly, if they want to stick a Guo on 2 primaries, you can only kill 1 in a turn. That's just what Grey Knights do. They can't kill 2 Guos in 1 turn unless you get unbelievably lucky. But yeah, that's really it there. I think looking at it, I think this feels good. I mean, obviously the skill matchup tier, that can fluctuate a little bit, but this is kind of how when I look at the game, if I'm in a team environment, how I would kind of look at pairings and how I would look to go. So if you're in a team setting, I think anything from skill matchup and down, you'd be really okay playing against in a team environment. Anything here up, you're going to be telling your captain or whoever, hey, look, I'm playing for points here. I'm probably going to pull out a 9, 10, or an 11 and go from there. Set Fetcher's card. That's impossible. But that's my quick raw thoughts on the Grey Knight matchup tier list. And again, that was assuming you're playing Warpbane or Banishers. If you're playing Spearhead and all of that, frankly, I don't know that any of these get drastically better or worse. All of our data sheets are the same. So that is it, guys. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.